Here is the MacBook Pro. Here's the MacBook Pro with Retina display, late 2013. It's black because I put a case, the hard polycarbonate protective case on it to prevent it from like scratch, or if I drop it, might perform like short absorption capability or impact resistant. I put a film on it, protective films for the screen, the Mochi palm guard silicone keyboard cover, like it's not like waterproof, like water repellent, and also the palm guard to prevent like it hit the static shocks, and also might get scratches from like my watch or so. So it really is the MacBook Pro with Retina display. You can see the HDMI port, SD card, 2 Thunderbolt 2, Wi-Fi AC. Battery lasts up to like 9 or 10 hours on a single charge. And then now, you know my secret, right? So I'm going to take you a picture now. I'm just joking. So today I'm going to discuss about the difference between the MacBook Pro with Retina display late 2013 and the MacBook Air early 2014. What's the difference? First of all, you don't need my video, to be honest, to know the difference about the MacBook Pro with Retina display or the Air. You can just go to just punch in the box in Google, like you can search on the internet. You can go to the nearest Apple store and talk to someone there. But if you think that I know more than any of those people, you can continue listening. I'm not your alternative. I put a curse on my video. You must have faith in me, in my expertise. I'm not your alternative. If you think I'm your alternative, you're going to make the wrong decision, to be perfectly honest. It's not about exaggerations. Like, I don't know, but I'm not an alternative. I'm just a poor OCD patient from Thailand who has never been outside this country before. Here's the MacBook Pro with Retina display. You go to a Mac store, hey, what's the difference between the Pros and the Air? First, the refresh structure of the MacBook Air is merely the refresh structure of an iPad. It's an iPad. So it has a poor ventilation system, and beyond that, it has a very low rate of thermal design power system. Thermal design power system is some sort of tier, the limit, temperature limit, that when the processor reaches that particular limit, it will stop performance in order to prevent the motherboard from like burning or something. You can use your MacBook Air as your primary computer or a desktop replacement for everyone in your house. You're going to shorten its lifespan, and it tends to be easily broken if you use the MacBook Air that way. The primary difference, firstly, the Air is that thin and light because it used the iPad-like mainboard's refresh structure. And the way they assemble things, then things combine together and become the MacBook Air. They're going to use like adhesive or so-called glue to kind of like merge things together. Let alone now in 2014, it's not about you go to the nearest Mac store, the guys there that might say well, the Pro has faster processor, 2 Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt 2, Thunderbolt 1, higher resolution photo screen, the color is more accurate or some. Now is the eras of the 4K display. You want to know about the 4K? The thing is, let me show you the 4K video. I got I get like 4 minutes 4K video that I have downloaded, and it took me like 500 megabytes for 4 minutes. So let me demonstrate briefly. This one is not 4K. 4K is 30x40 by 2160, but this one is not. This one is like 25 by 16. So let me demonstrate briefly. I'll go to like open recent. There is the 4K video on a non-4K display. I'll mute it. If you're a photographer like me, I'm an amateur, or if you want to connect your MacBook Pro with Retina display to an external 4K monitor, you're going to need the MacBook Pro with Retina display because the MacBook Air doesn't support the 4K monitor. The native resolution of 4K monitor is 30x40 by 2160, roughly like around 4 times greater than regular like 1080p monitors or TV. For me personally, I think, do you remember at the time when they were releasing the Blu-ray? At the time, people were so excited. Blu-rays about 1080p, the highest resolution of already 1080p, Full HD 1080p, Blu-ray. Nowadays, nobody really buy like legal copy or licensed copy of Blu-ray disc. They tend to go to Apple and download the files, or go to Pirate Bay, like 1080p MKV files. Same story. So don't be so excited. 4K television or monitor, they are not new. They have been exist for a while on the market. Like a few years ago, like now they can buy Dell for $629, or you go to Apple site and get the sharp one, $3,500. You buy the cheap one, you get low cost panel. You buy the higher. It's kind of like compare between iPhone to the entry level Samsung phone or something like that. So probably in the very near future, don't expect you're gonna see 4K, because the thing is 4K is nice, but the content that can be projected on the 4K, because the 4K is like movie theater screen. So the thing is, the file for the 4K video will be very big. This one is only 4 minutes, took me 500 megabytes. So MacBook Air will not support, because it has a Thunderbolt 1. The MacBook Air doesn't support 4K display. You got what I mean? It doesn't support 4K display, the external 4K display. But it doesn't mean the MacBook Air is not good. I don't recommend the MacBook Air. You know why? Because the native RAMs of the Air is insufficient. Now, today in 2014, mid-2014, 4 gigs of RAM is not enough. You're going to need 8 gigabytes of RAM. You want to buy the MacBook Air, you're going to have to pay $100 more in order to get 8 gigabytes. You're going to have to go to the Apple store and go to the custom to config page. That's not an ideal way to get a laptop. But it doesn't mean the Air is not good. Air is light, it's cheap. In some country, of course, they lower the price in the US every model $100, but not in Thailand. It has a very good battery life, up to 13 hours. But in the long run, I mean, if you really need a full-fledged notebook or a full-scale laptop, you're going to have to buy the MacBook Pro with Retina display, but it's quite pricey. In some countries, you might be able to get your hands on the refurbished models. Like for instance, you don't really need to buy the late 2013. You can buy probably the late 2012 MacBook Pro with Retina display. You don't need AC Wi-Fi. Probably you don't need Thunderbolt 2. Probably you don't need like 2 extra hours more battery life. You don't need that. Probably. Yeah, like slightly different to like HD 4000, Iris, whatever. So lastly, for me personally, to be perfectly honest, now, well, you might get different results if you have asked me like years ago, but today, I don't recommend the early 2014 MacBook Air because it's nearly an excuse for the approaches that Apple took. Why? Because at the time they couldn't just reduce the price, of course. They might, if they just reduce the price, they can't do that. They can't just reduce the price because they will provoke the existing customer or they have purchased that. They can't just, like for instance, let alone $100. I mean, you buy an app, like for instance today you spend like $4.99 for an app, then tomorrow it's dropped to like $0.99 or has gone free for like 2 days or something. You're gonna feel like you buy the Air tomorrow and reduce the price up to like, it was like an excuse that they wanna lower the price. So even though they claim underlying discrepancy, well, 2 more hours for video playback, whatever. So now, if you haven't decided to buy anything, I would suggest you really need something that's really thin. You really need the Air, you need the design. You don't need like 4K Thunderbolt 2. I recommend that you should wait for the probably mid-2014 or late 2014 MacBook Air. Stop by the MacBook Air now. So at the moment, I recommend the MacBook Pro with Retina display. You might say, Mark, it's expensive. Yes. You need something better, you're going to have to pay more. One more time, the motherboard of the MacBook Air is not meant to be designed, or it wasn't designed to be a laptop motherboard. The Air is merely an iPad, and the processor is, when we trace back, like 2 years ago, Apple didn't increase the processor speed. They just prolong battery life. Like we talk about like power efficient, Thunderbolt port, Wi-Fi, AC, power efficient, and like second like microphone, like noise cancelling things. So I recommend that you should skip early MacBook Air 2014 because they have only like 4 gigabytes of native RAM compared to MacBook Pro that display. Let alone the Air lacks the, it doesn't have a built-in HDMI port. It has only one Thunderbolt, whereas the Pro Retina display has. I recommend the MacBook Pro with Retina display over the Air at the moment, but you buy the mid-range, not the entry level. You buy the entry, you got like 4 gigs. Or you might be able to find the older version, like refurbished one, you can save your money. If you're a student, you go to the Apple Store online, go to your university, you find a way to get like student price, student discount. If you want to buy the MacBook Pro with Retina display, I recommend the mid-range one, the one in the middle, the 8 gigabytes of RAM with the 256 gigabyte of internal storage. It's like the Air is being like an iPad. Pro with Retina is a full-fledged, full-scale notebook with everything that you might need, but of course more expensive. Thanks for watching.
What did you say? Apple shouldn't have acquired speed or something?